Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here with Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about ego lifting in good form. But a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so and drop me a comment down below. I would appreciate it so much. Thank you. So when we get into these topics with ego lifting, I want to be clear. I am not saying you can't gain muscle with ego lifting. This is the real conversation we have to have. It's not about that, because we all know plenty of people do gain muscle ego lifting. Okay, we know plenty of pro bodybuilders who've gotten massive ego lifting, right? I mean, technically Arnold did. I mean, I can think of a few. Branch Warren definitely comes to mind. He got monstrously massive as a pro bodybuilder with tons of ego lifting. Like, everything is sloppy. I mean, Ronnie Coleman did a lot of ego lifting, right? So I'm not saying you can't get results. Let's be absolutely clear, okay? It's not about the results. It's about the long game. And I think what people need to also remember, when you think about cheating on lifts and the ego lifting and a lot of this stuff, people have done amazingly well doing super strict and ego lifting. In terms of actually getting really big, really jacked, both methods work, right? We see people with super strict form who've gotten absolutely phenomenal results. And we see people with insane levels of ego lifting who, again, got absolutely phenomenal results, right? So if you go off of kind of the anecdote we have there, sure, you can get big. You can get big. I mean, using either method, right? We've seen hundreds of examples of both. This is not even in question, okay? What about research? There was a study that looked at that. I think last year or so, where they looked at quite a bit, and they were comparing muscle growth if people used really sloppy cheating form but still did sets to failure versus if they went really strict. Okay, what do you think they found? Muscle growth was pretty much the same, right? Muscle growth was pretty much the same as long as, the primary movers are what failed, right? In other words, you could cheat on a curl, and as long as your biceps are the muscle that reached failure first, didn't matter versus really strict. The growth was the same. Okay? So we have the real world to look at, and then we have studies that have looked at it. And it's been pretty conclusive. You know what? Both approaches work. So then people would make the case of, well, if both approaches work, we can do whatever we want, and the long term is going to be the same. But I don't think that that's going to be the case with the long term. And I think we could look at it. I can give you the pros and cons of each. You ready? I'm going to tell you guys to mostly use stricter form. I think you need to train pretty strict. Now, that being said, could I still make a case of why some ego lifting may in some cases be helpful? How about the fact that you're taking smaller exercises and turning them into bigger movements that work more muscles? I mean, technically, do we get muscle growth from that in those other muscles? Maybe. Now, people say, oh, but they're not being isolated. They're not. But does that matter? Like, has that ever really mattered? Like, really and truly, if you go off of all the evidence that we have, does isolating a muscle matter? Well, no. Plenty of studies show that the triceps grow really well from bench pressing, particularly like the lateral head. It's not isolated. It's a chest exercise. Okay? Plenty of studies have shown lat pull downs with an overhand grip actually grow the biceps decently well. But it's not, we don't think of that as isolated. You're like, dude, it's not even the right angle. What are you talking about? That's an overhand grip. That's pronated. That's not even putting the biceps in the best position. Right? So if we're going to look at some of that, it's like, it really shouldn't be that great, but it actually turns out when it's been studied and pretty good. Right? A pull-up grows biceps, decent lat pull down. I'm not saying it's the best thing ever, of course not, but it does grow them. Okay? And we can't deny that. Like, it's been studied and measured, and yeah, they actually do grow from those things. The lateral head of the tricep grows better from benching, and the only studies that looked at it found it in some cases is better than the extension for that head. But you see the point we're making, right? Isolation doesn't matter. So big compounds, these other peripheral muscles grow. So in theory, if you're doing cheat rows, you're doing cheat curls, you're doing this other stuff, is your hamstrings possibly going to grow from some of it? Could your upper back grow from the cheat curls? Could your traps, certain parts of your shoulders, possibly grow from those cheat curls? If we went off the evidence, we could say, yeah, they very well might. It's not unreasonable, okay? So we need to be clear. So when we see some of these really jacked bodybuilders who have done a lot of all this cheating, it's like they're turning everything into a big compound. People say, but it's not isolating any of it. But does that really matter? Like if you really look at the evidence, both the real world, or those guys are jacked, and you look at what's been studied, does that really matter? Not really. It's still causing some muscle growth. There's still some contribution, even if it's not growing those muscles as well as, say, a movement that really focuses on them. But it's still growing them. It's still going to grow them. So you can make a case, right? So let's be clear. There's a reason some guys are like, man, I feel like I get really big from the ego lifting. Okay. Like, I don't think we can argue against that fact. They probably are growing pretty. They very well might be getting some secondary carryover. It's not unreasonable to look at that when guys are doing it and feel that way, of understanding why they feel that way, because it might actually be true. Lo and behold, their results might be for a reason. There can be a reason. There can be secrets to the success. Success leaves clues. Okay? Understand this. However, let's talk about the injury side. Okay? If we can get just as big with strict form, but we can get less injuries, what makes sense for the long term? And I think that's the real question here. What makes sense for the long game? Okay? Because you can't say everyone who's really jacked did ego lifting, because that's not the case. About half of them didn't. A lot of really jacked guys do super strict form. A lot of crazy jacked guys do strict form. But here's what you notice. How many guys stay in the game? What is a trend? Let's talk about again. Maybe we don't have tons of long-term studies on this. Okay, that's fine, but we can observe the real world. Again, success leaves clues. When you look at guys who, well into older ages, have maintained muscle, maintained their physiques really well, low injuries, what do you see? Not that they lift light. A lot of them are really strong. Low injuries. I mean, that Frank Zane, Lee Haney, right? These guys all train strict. How about Michael Hearn? Michael Hearn, pretty much a vampire. You guys ever watch him train? You ever see Mike use bad form? No. Dude is still really strong. So you can't even say, oh, well, it's lightweight. No. Dude, we've seen Mike overhead press and incline bench some crazy weights. Like, let's be clear, that dude is strong on anything pressing related. I mean, I can hang with him all day on deadlifts and squats and whatever. I can't hang with Mike on any sort of press. You just haven't seen me bench more than like 350 on here lately. Dude can incline my max bench for reps. All right, I can't hang with that. Let's be realistic. Amazing physique in his 50s still. Longevity. He trains super strict. Like, watch Mike train. Do you see him, other than maybe upright rows? I've seen him do some really cheating upright rows. I don't think I've ever seen Mike O'Hearn other than an upright row cheat on any exercise. It's all really, really strict. Okay? Again, success leaves clues, but he doesn't get hurt. Whereas in Ronnie Coleman's and others, they do get hurt. So think about it from the long game of the overuse. If you're stricter in your movements, you're less likely to get hurt. Okay? Ego lifting has not served the long game, and we've all seen it. The guys who train sloppy, they do get hurt more often. The old timers, the guys who really make it, are pretty dang strict. Of course, I'm 48, still move some respectable weights. Right? I tend to train, pretty strict most of the time. I occasionally have phases where I'll mess with some cheat curls, but I train strict. It matters. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.